Fags, shall we start with your team? No Mitch Robbo this week. How's he coming along? Obviously not quite good enough to get up.
Well, arguably we could play him, I guess. But he's had a little bit of a history across the course of the past 2 or 3 years with calf injuries, and although he trained fully yesterday, that was his first full training session for 2 weeks, and we just think that it might be wiser to make sure that he's fully right to go and resist the temptation of playing him this week. So that's the way we've rolled. A bit of a conservative call. I think if we had been playing in a final, he would be playing, but I think it's probably the right way to go, Michael.
And Marcus, can we assume that him being an emergency means he was fit? You just opted to stick with the same backline?
Yeah, it was pretty tough call, but he is fit, which is a great thing. But I thought that the team's performed really well over the last couple of weeks, so a bit difficult to make changes at this point.
That must have been difficult, Fags, because I think you've said previously, and we've seen with his form this year, he's been in great form when he's fit. He's been in your best 22. Like,
yeah.
How difficult was that to weigh up trying to get him back in versus, sticking with the?
It was a long conversation at selection, that's for sure, and that doesn't mean that Marcus won't be in our best side next week. Always tough, but all those guys did a good job last week, and the way that we like to balance up, it's just the way we decided to go.
Fags, the West Coast team, there's a lot of big name outs, but that's the sort of game when people are writing them off, that they've sort of don't have those stars at the bookends at either side, that they're the most challenging games.
Yeah, beware, I'd say. No, you look at that West Coast team, there's still 10 premiership players in that group, and on top of that, it's Gaff and Nat and Nui and Oscar Allen, who Oscar wasn't around at the time of that premiership, and the other 2 boys were injured or suspended. So you could probably say there's 13 guys there that would have played in a premiership. So they're a team that we have immense respect for. You always worry a little bit as a coach when you're playing against a team who's got their backs to the wall. They know that if they win, there's still a chance to make finals, and I think the games that affect them won't have been played by the time we played, so they're just going to play, I think, with a free and open mind and just have a crack. So from that perspective, it's a dangerous game for us, and we need to be on the job, and we can't just assume that because we're playing at the Gabba and our form's been good that we're just going to go out there and win quite easily. That's not the case, and we're very aware of that.
I know Kennedy's. Oh, sorry, you go. You go, mate.
I was just going to pick up the game that does affect where you guys finish, like that, or where it could finish. That is Friday night. That's tonight.
Yeah. Good observation.
Yeah. How do you stop that result sort of filtering through? If it works out well for you, how do you stop that filtering for you, or do you not let it?
No, we talked about that today in our team meeting. Tonight's result, are we going to let that affect what we do tomorrow? Does it make any difference whether the Dogs win or whether the Dogs lose? And we've been on a bit of a mission the last couple of weeks to prepare ourselves for finals. So whether the Dogs win or lose tonight, we're still preparing ourselves for finals. So that'll be the attitude that we take. We can't afford to take any less of an attitude than that. So our players were really united on that idea, and it's out in the open, that it could affect things one way or another, but hopefully, because we've talked about it and our group's really maturing, we'll be able to cope with whatever happens tonight. And the bottom line is, it's out of our hands, and the reason it's out of our hands is because we played some games this year where we didn't play well enough to win that we should have, and so we only have ourselves to blame that it's hanging on a game tonight.
it does involve some things that you could see yourself playing in the next couple of weeks. So will you personally sit down and watch it? I don't know if you're a sit down and watch Friday night football kind of person.
I'll watch as much footy as I can, try and learn as much as I can all the time. So yeah, I'll be watching all the games that I can this weekend of potential finalists, because right at this point in time we could be playing anywhere between 3 and 4 different sides. So study the game for sure.
Does the maths come into it for you? You know, if you need to kick X amount of goals or points, I mean, could it? And you know, will you be sort of sitting there and trying to work it all out?
Well, it won't matter if the Dogs win tonight. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, if they lose, no doubt somebody will have that calculation and put it in front of me. All those things are unavoidable, but we just have to follow our process. I mean, that's the thing. You can't get caught up in, how much you need to win by and all that sort of business. It's just the wrong way to think, and it often leads to tears. So we'll just, as I said earlier in the piece, we're preparing to play finals, and that will be our approach. And if we're good enough to win, it'll be by whatever we win by.
You talk about preparing. There's still so much sort of debate about just where finals might be. Does that come into your calculations at all, or do you just play what's in front of you and if it changes?
No, you just got to play what's in front of you. Sometimes you win the COVID lottery and sometimes you lose the COVID lottery, and it is a lottery. You don't really know what's going to happen next, so you control what you can control yourself. And I would have thought by now that our boys have they've been used. A lot of things have happened this year in the course of our season, and all of it, in hindsight, has been great preparation for what might happen in the weeks ahead.
Chris, is a goal from Danaher something we can bank on, because he's done it every game, and what a phenomenal achievement to go through scoring every week.
I don't know. It's not something I ever talk to him about. It is impressive. I guess I don't know how often that gets done in AFL football, but for me and for Joey, he just really cares about his role for the team, and if that leads to him kicking a goal or two, that's great. If it doesn't and he creates plenty for his teammates, then that's fine too.
It's just wonderful consistency, though, isn't it? How does he do it?
Well, you'd probably have to ask him. It helps that he plays near the goals every week for starters, and that he's about 200 centimetres tall, and he's a good mark, and most weeks the supply's pretty good, so maybe it's all of those reasons.
Scott said yesterday, just on the COVID lottery, he wants to take it out completely when it comes to finals. I think his line was, everyone should be playing on neutral ground. Logistically, it's going to be hard, but you don't subscribe to that?
I must admit, I don't spend too much time thinking about those sorts of issues. To me, it's a bit of a waste of time, because the AFL will make the call on what's best for the game and what suits the current COVID situation, and just tend to play along with that. In the ideal world, we'd like to be granted the home finals that we deserve and all that sort of business, but it just won't be the case this year. And I'm sure that the AFL will make it as fair as they can in the final series under the circumstances that they have to operate in. And I'm just going to trust that they'll do that, and we'll, put our best foot forward, whatever challenge is presented to us.
Yeah, Fakes, if you weren't the right for a home final,
yeah,
and you didn't get it because of fairness, how much would that annoy you?
No, I just think you've got to take it in your stride, mate. I mean, we've lost home games this year. It's good tomorrow night that we've got a home game, and hopefully all our fans turn up again and shout as loud as they did last week. I think it's 75% crowd capacity tomorrow night, so it'd be good to see as many people as we can there. We just got to make the most of it while it's there. But I just don't think you can afford to get upset about things that are out of your control. I think that leads to poor performance, to be honest, and you've just got to take it all in your stride. That's the way it is.
Chris, you were talking about before about getting ready for the finals in the past couple of weeks. I guess you've kicked, 260 points what's been the turnaround there in the sort of forwards and the and the kicking of the goals?
Oh, look, I think mostly it's just been the return of our effort and energy. We know when we play a high energy, high effort sort of game, with the way that we move the ball, we're always putting ourselves in the best position to score quite heavily, and I felt like that had dropped away a little bit or had become inconsistent. But that's been back the last couple of weeks, and it's no surprise that it's shown out on the scoreboard.
And how was Darcy after last week? First game in a while, pulled up all right this week.
Yeah, he's been good. He was a bit rusty, which was to be expected. He hadn't played football for such a long time, but physically he pulled up really well, and obviously will be better for having a run at AFL intensity, and in the game tomorrow night will help him again. All good?
All good.
Fakes, can I get a line off you about Clarko and Sean Burgoyne? They had a fairly emotional press conference this morning.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Look, they're both legends of the game. Clarko's a legendary coach and clearly the best coach of the last 40 or 50 years, I think, and having worked with him, I really appreciate just how good he is, and I'm sad to see that he won't be coaching Hawthorn next year, but I hope at some stage in the future that he is coaching again, even though that probably means that there'll be another good team to play against. Sean Burgoyne has been amazing. He's just a credit to himself and his family and the Indigenous community. He's always held himself really well, Sean. He's been a leader at that club. He's been a bloke that's been able to fix problems during games for Clarko. He's that versatile, and to have played so many games at the level that he has is absolutely incredible. And he still looks like he could go around again, but he's obviously made that decision. But I've got nothing but total respect for Sean Burgoyne. I've been lucky enough to have been involved with him, and lucky enough to call both he and Clarko good friends of mine.